Hi folks, how are you doing? After yesterday's a little disappointing round with four rather dull draws, today we had a really exciting round with lots of very interesting games, and I think you will agree this is going to be the most exciting game of at least this round. I'm talking about the game which played Anand as white and Andreikin as black. Let us see what happened because this was really a nice one. E4, C6. So we have, for the first time I think in this tournament, we have the Caro Kann defense. Good to see variety, of course. And of course Anand is a huge expert of this defense with both colors, so it's a brave decision by Andreikin to play it. We have the main line with knight c3, takes, bishop f5. Very common moves. And here Andreikin plays e6. Remember, this is what Carlsen played in the famous World Championship match in Chennai last year, so Andreikin was probably testing Anand's preparation for that line. Really brave decision. The most common move order here is to play knight d7, h5, bishop h7, bishop d3, etc. But okay, e6 is also playable. Now knight e5, the bishop must go back because letting white take on g6 doesn't look very healthy. Bishop h7, now bishop d3, bishop is exchanged always in these Caro Kann structures. Knight d7, f4, still following that second game of the World Championship match 2013 between Anand and Carlsen. So very interesting. We're just seeing all the same line, the same moves. Bishop b4, the intermediate check, c3, bishop e7, bishop d2. Remember all those possibilities. Carlsen and here Andreikin had to take the pawn, etc. Knight gf6, long castle, short castle. To this point they both have followed that game, and now Anand deviates with queen f3, with some they have ideas maybe to play f5 while he gets away with this knight to attack on the king side. So potentially a very interesting position ahead. White has more space in the king side and probably will try to attack there, while black will have to seek for counterplay on the queen side. In the World Championship match, you may remember, Anand played knight e4, and after some exchanges, Carlsen equalized with relatively ease, so he didn't have much problem there. So after castles, I said now queen f3, and queen c7 is played by Andreikin, while developing the queen to a potentially open file. c5 maybe is always a possibility that black must have into account to try to seek for counterplay on the center on the queen side. There are a couple of games, just two in my database, so this is a relatively new position, fresh position. Here c4 is played by Anand. It's interesting because it stops, for instance, black from going to d5. It's controlling the d5 square, and well, it seems to be a correct move. f5 would be a little bit too fast to play right now, because black could take on e5, the pawn would fall, and although it may seem that white develops initiative with rook h1, queen d5, and it seems that black consolidates his pawn, and it's not really that clear where white's advantage is. So c4 seems pretty reasonable, and here an interesting move a5. So this is an interesting move, just trying, at least it seems to go for counterplay immediately on the queen side. Very correct. And as Peter Heine Nielsen was pointing out while commenting on the official website, this was kind of an idea that Bent Larsen played in the Caro Kann to try to play a5, a4, a3, create weaknesses on white's queen side. Very wisely, Anand plays king b1, prophylactic move. Now rook a d8. Well, maybe a little bit incoherent, not coherent with the previous move. This is, I mean, why not a4 and keep pushing that pawn? But okay, overall this move can't be good. You're putting a rook in a central file, so this can't be a bad move, really. Now bishop c1. The bishop will be protecting their dark squares, in which will be eventually a counterattack of black on the queen side. a4, rook h e1, and finally a3. Now Anand plays b3 and is pleasantly controlling the dark squares, even having an eye against this pawn on a3. So, well, the bishop is now a good piece defending, and while he has something here, while he has this the queen side under control, he will try to prepare something on the king side or even in the center. Bishop b4, attacking the rook, bishop e3, and c5. Really natural looking, but also very committing and really sharp, because white's natural reaction and really critical move here is to play d5. Well, just to illustrate, I mean, taking on c5. Not still a disaster, but suddenly white is very well coordinated with the open d file. The knight and the bishop are looking good, while there are some white pieces that are not really that great placed. Of course, d5 is very critical and much more principled. He takes, c takes, and now white already has a passed pawn, which is going to be a very crucial part of this game. If he keeps control of this pawn, it will be a very dangerous playing against black pieces. Otherwise, if he loses it, black will be better, of course. So now knight b6, attacking the pawn, rook e d3, defending. And okay, there were a couple of possibilities here. Andreikin went queen c8. The engine doesn't seem to like it, and certainly it allows d6. Let us see what other options he had. For instance, he could have tried knight e8 to try to go with the knight to d6 to blockade it in the Nimzo-Indian way. Although here white would take his chance to jump with the knight either to e4 or f5. Another option was simply to exchange here, creating an imbalanced position, materially imbalanced. So that after rook takes, knight takes, lots of pieces would be exchanged here. And white has a couple of knights against black's rook and pawn. Really imbalanced and interesting position. Rook d8. For instance, queen goes back to f3. Now black cannot play c4 as he would like to, because the knight is guarding there. So f6, maybe knight c4, attacking a3, queen e7, so that after white takes the pawn, bishop takes, black has this interesting queen e1 check, bishop c1, and rook d1, attacking c1 with two pieces. And it seems really the only move here to keep the balance here for white is to play knight e2, defending c1. And well, lots of pieces have been exchanged. Still, this is a playable position, I guess, but maybe a little bit too forced for both players to reach this, and which could be potentially a drawish game, because either player could force here matters and have some kind of repetition of moves. But okay, this was interesting to take a look at. So queen c8, as we saw, was played, and now d6 was allowed. As far as white doesn't lose control of this pawn, this is going to be a very interesting pawn already on the 6th rank. Rook f e8. Well, black probably had better things to do, better moves to play, but this is what Andreikin went with. And now the point is that the only thing stopping white from playing really deadly d7 with a fork is the knight, for instance, on f6, or also the one on b6, but you can't do much about that one. So it makes lots of sense here to remove the defender with knight h5. And we have an extremely complicated position. White is threatening to take on f6, play d7. Later in the press conference, Anand said that he could have also played d7 right away, as after lots of exchanges on d7, he could have played knight f5, threatening, for instance, knight d6, activating his knight, etc. He has compensation for the pawn. But okay, he played knight h5, seems much more principled, and now rook e6 was played by Andreikin. I don't know, seems a little awkward, but the position really is very awkward, very sharp one. And without looking at the engine, you can't really say if it's a good or bad move. There is lots of calculation is needed here to know who is better. It is suggested by the engine to be that queen f5 was the best chance here. You're pinning the rook against the king, etc. g4 is what white could play, and now queen h7. And the best move, it seems, for white here, according to the computers, of course, is to take on b7. Certainly making lots of sense, attacking both b6, attacking f7. So only move for black to defend, knight from f to d7, knight takes, and after f5, so far the queen is out of the game right now. Well, once again, a difficult position, a complicated one. Probably white is doing really well here, but still a very complicated one. Well, rook e6 was played by Andreikin, and here it seems that d7 was giving Anand lots of edge. Let's see what would happen here. You're attacking, of course, the queen, and the queen can go a couple of places. For instance, queen c7. Now f5 could be played. The knight now is not defended, so queen takes e5 is an option. But after rook e3, it seems that black is giving up some material, and this is really not pretty for me. The rook and the queen are both under attack, and maybe black has even to give up the queen, taking on e3. So after f5, or if rook e7 may seem natural to get out of there, but suddenly knight takes f6 check, g takes f6, queen g4 check, king h7, rook g3, and checkmate will follow in a couple of moves. So this was not a great option. There weren't really that great moves for black here. It was a very dangerous position, as you can see, to play queen c7, but still, what can black do? Queen b8 instead. Something similar could happen. f5, attacking the rook. Now black could try counter-attacking with c4. Once again, if rook e7, knight takes f6 check with the same trick we just saw, going for the checkmate, quick checkmate against black king. So say c4. Now white takes, and really black seems to have seems he has to take on e5. Now knight takes f6 check, queen takes f6, and after the queens are exchanged, rook g3 check, king f8, bishop a3, attacking the knight, which, by the way, doesn't have that many squares to go to, knight a8, and really white has emerged of the chaos of that mess, an exchange up, and having very dangerous looking central pawns. This should be very, very favorable for white. His rooks are really active, while black's pieces are not really looking that great, particularly this rook and the knight on the corner. So really, d7 seems it was a really good chance for Anand to have an interesting edge. Still a very complicated and sharp position. Instead, he plays first knight takes f6 check, and rook takes f6 follows. if g takes f6, as we just saw, opening your king side like that, like this, is very, very dangerous. In fact, this is losing. Forced queen g4 check, king h7, queen f5 check, king h8. If the king goes to the g file, then rook joins the party, rook g3 check, and this is desperate as well. So after king h8? Well, probably the knight takes on f7, and this is going to be once again checkmate very soon. So rook taking on f6, what the rook is forced, and now Anand goes d7. Queen c7 seems very natural here. Now queen g4, defends d7, and also is having a look at the g7 pawn and having some threat here, some threats against black king. c4, creating some counter-attacking chance. What else? Black really must create something, and really what an exciting position. Up to this point, probably the game of the tournament. Rook g3, threatening checkmate, g6, and h5. C takes b3, what happened here? Of course, threatening to go into c2. And well, Engine says that this is winning for white, but I mean, really, humans must be extremely careful here with both colors. This is a very sharp position, double-edged, and it's really like juggling with knives on a frozen lake. Extremely dangerous. Rook takes b3. Now there is no pawn threatening checkmate on c2, and white is attacking the bishop. Knight a4. Black is really rolling the dice here. He doesn't have anything really much better. But here, just to illustrate that white just cannot fall asleep, let's make a silly move for white. What if he plays g3? Well, the position is rather dangerous for white, as now you will see why. Knight c3 check was the threat, and if king a1, now knight takes d1, queen takes d1, bishop c3 check, king b1, bishop takes e5, f takes, and now rook takes d7, threatening the queen, and black is suddenly winning. By the way, after knight c3 check, if not king a1, rook takes c3 is even worse. Bishop takes c3, and poor white king is feeling really miserable. So after knight a4, after thinking for a while, Anand made the forcing move, h takes g6. Black is forced to take back, and now he takes on b4. Well, white has won a piece, but black has lots of counterplay against white king. So, well, this is, of course, once again, Engine says this is absolutely winning for white, etc. But this is far from being easy and completely done for white. So this is a crazy position. Knight c3 check, and king c2. Only move. Otherwise, king a1, black just takes on d1 and has a couple of threats. Once again, the rook on the bishop, on c1 is hanging. He also has the threat to check on c3 and take the rook. So if queen takes, for instance, d1, defending the bishop, queen c3 check, and I'm taking the rook. So this is far from being easy, as you can see. For white, both players must be careful here. And so, as I said, king c2 is the incredible only move. And now this is completely insane. Black has lots of discovered check. Instead, Andreikin decides to play b5. Well, it seems the main move would be here to take on d1 with check, and now king takes d1. But still, this may seem that black is recovering some material, but probably Andreikin saw the line we're gonna see. Rook d6 check, now bishop d2, king g7, not to let white get in on g6, on the king side, etc. f5 looks natural. Now is queen c5 also looking natural, attacking the knight. Rook e4, and now queen d5. attacking mainly the bishop on d2, rook e2, queen b5 here is threatening checkmate in 1 as the bishop on d2 is pinned. So say king e1, check on the first rank, king f2, and really once again the white king has taken a big trip here, and well, white has a couple of light pieces against the rook, and this is once again very imbalanced, and tons of calculations are needed here to know who is better. Concrete lines are very decisive. So after king c2 there was another opportunity of, for instance, to take on a2 with check, but this seems to be leading to a slightly worse line for black than the one we're gonna see. Now rook c4, it's protected by the knight, knight b4 check, king b3, and if knight c6, knight takes c6, b takes c6, bishop could take on a3, and white is up a piece. Okay, it's clear that both kings lack any protection, almost any protection, but I feel that somehow white should be able to consolidate his piece advantage, although still, once again, it's very complicated stuff. So okay, what happened? b5 was played here on the 35th move already. King b3, and here knight a4. Well, white must be once again careful here. Let's see what was happening if knight takes d1, rook takes d1, black could try rook d6, both rook and the bishop are under attack, but queen c2 could force the exchanges, and after king takes a3, probably Andreikin saw this easily winning for white, so he tries to keep matters complicated with knight a4. Well, lots of moves here available for white. Anand plays queen f3. Well, natural looking one. He's protecting a very interesting and really square here, c3. The engine is suggesting that bishop d2 is once again a very good move here, once again controlling c3, and if say knight c5, king could take a3 because rook a8 check, king b2, knight a4 check, king b1, and black is this is leading nowhere for black, and it seems that the best black had here is to take on d7. The king goes back to b2, and well, white is still up a piece and probably in a much better position, but still unclear. Other options for white, well, you just must be careful here. Once again, rook takes b5 is not that funny because queen c3 check, and after king takes a4, rook a8 is a checkmate in 2. In a similar way, the king shouldn't go here, taking on a3 probably, because queen c3 check could follow, and if rook b3, b4, check, interesting, king takes a4, and once again this is leading to checkmate for black, black checkmates white in this case. Rook a8 check, king b5, rook b8 check, king a4, and now the other rook delivers. So once again, still white is up a piece here after knight a4, but he must be careful. It's not that trivial. This is not easy at all. And as we saw, Anand plays queen f3. Now after knight c5 check, once again taking on a3, queen a5 check, king b2, queen would take on b4, and this doesn't seem to be what white was dreaming about. Still not that great disaster maybe, but white can certainly do much better here, starting from this position. So king c2 was played, and we're all on the 38th move. A couple of repetitions happened here till they safely reached the time control, and now Anand and Andreikin as well had an additional hour to think about. And you may think one could continue playing in this position, but unfortunately for us, the spectators, Anand played king b3 once again, in this way agreeing to a draw by repetition. But really, if you think about it, I mean, getting away the emotion, it seems pretty reasonable to take the draw here, even if he's a piece up and the engine is saying he's winning, but the position is very far from being clear and safe for him. So he's thinking about the standings, he's thinking about the tournament, he's clearly leading, so you don't want to risk that much in a really unclear position, the position really sharp. And you may understand him, he's thinking about the standings, and this is far from being easy. And just to show what the engine is suggesting here, the incredible only winning move seems to be rook c4, giving back some material after b takes c4. For instance, white could take on a3, threatening bishop e7, but well, once again, this is far from being easy. And well, if you're leading the tournament, you may be really happy with a draw with a couple of games remaining, and you're just securing your place at the World Championship match, rematching Magnus Carlsen from Norway. Let us see what happens in the remaining rounds, but this was certainly a very interesting game. Thanks for watching.